So what's up? It's been a long time since I shot a video. Thanks to COVID, we're not really doing any investigating or doing that much really, just working, staying home. But this video, I'm going to talk about something that I find really interesting. I've seen it on the History Channel and a couple shows and stuff, but I've known about this for years. It's called the Guy Hottel memo, and this is why I find it so interesting. So the Guy Hottel memo is one of the most popular files on the FBI Vault website. The FBI Vault website is vault.fbi.gov. It was created after the Freedom of Information Act, and it is the home to many documents that you can peruse and go through. The Hottel memo is dated March 22nd, 1950, and was written by Guy Hottel, who was the head of the FBI's field office in Washington, D.C. at the time. All memos to FBI headquarters at the time are directed to the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, and they were recorded, indexed, and kept in FBI records. The subject of the memo is what makes this so popular. It shares a story told to one of the FBI's field agents by a third party who claimed that an Air Force investigator showed up and collected 3 flying saucers that were crashed in New Mexico. This is exactly what the Guy Hottel memo says. An investigator for the Air Force stated that 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in New Mexico. The saucers, were described as being circular in shape with raised centers approximately 50 feet in diameter. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall, dressed in metallic cloth of a very fine texture. Each body was bandaged in a manner similar to the blackout suits used by speed flyers and test pilots. According to Mr. Name Redacted informant, the saucers were found in New Mexico due to the fact that the government has a very high-powered radar setup in that area, and it is believed the radar interferes with the controlling mechanism of the saucers. No further evaluation was attempted by Name Redacted concerning the above. So that's what it states in the Guy Hottel memo. It's kind of interesting. Like, crashed UFOs, alien bodies, we want to believe. But when the FBI opened the Vault website, which was in April of 2011, UFO enthusiasts and media outlets found the Hottel memo and wrongly reported that the FBI had posted proof of a UFO crash. They confused this with Roswell, New Mexico, and because of the recovery of the bodies, the alien corpses supposedly, and the resulting stories went viral and traffic to the FBI Vault website skyrocketed. According to the FBI, for a few years after the Roswell incident, Director Hoover did order his agents at the request of the Air Force to verify any UFO sightings. The practice ended in July 1950, 4 months after the Hottel memo, suggesting that the Washington field office didn't think enough of that flying saucer story to look into it any deeper. It turns out what the Hottel memo was reporting about was actually what some people call the other Roswell, or the Aztec UFO incident. It was a flying saucer crash alleged to have happened in 1948 in Aztec, New Mexico. The story was first published in 1949 by author Frank Scully in his Variety magazine column. Frank Scully reported that in March 1948, an unidentified craft containing 6 humanoid bodies was recovered by the military in New Mexico after making a controlled landing in Hart Canyon, 12 miles northeast of the city of Aztec. The craft was said to be 99 feet in diameter, the largest UFO to date. Scully named the sources as 2 men identified as Newton and Gebauer, who reportedly told him the incident had been covered up by the military and they had taken the craft. So this is where it kind of gets interesting. Well, it turns out the 2 men listed in Scully's story as sources turned out to not be very reliable sources. During the late 1940s and early 50s, Silas Newton and Leo Gebauer traveled through Aztec, New Mexico, attempting to sell devices known in the oil business as doodlebugs. They claimed that these devices could find oil, gas, and gold, and that they could do it because they were based on alien technology recovered from a supposed crash of a flying saucer. A writer from the San Francisco Chronicle asked the 2 men for a piece of metal from the supposed crashed alien ship. They provided him with a sample of metal, and he had it tested, and it turned out to be ordinary aluminum. In 1949, Frank Scully published his column in Variety magazine retelling the crash story told to him by Newton and Gebauer. He later expanded these columns to create Behind the Flying Saucers, a best-selling book that influenced public perceptions about the UFOs in the 1950s. 4 years later, the hoax was exposed in True magazine. After the article was published, many victims of the pair came forward. One of the victims was a millionaire named Herman Flatter, who pressed charges. The two, Newton and Gebauer, were both convicted of fraud in 1953. The UFO-inspired Doodlebug was actually just a box covered in dials and switches made from $3.50 of surplus radio parts. Through the mid-50s and into the early 70s, most UFO enthusiasts considered the story discredited and therefore avoided it. But in the late 70s, an author named Leonard Stringfield reported that not only was the incident real, but the craft involved was one of the many captured and stored by the U.S. military. In my opinion, it sounds like this whole thing was blown out of nothing and turned into something. Is a simple money-making scam by two guys in Aztec, New Mexico, who made up the story of the alien crash. The one con man, Silas Newton, actually has his own file on the FBI Vault website that lists more fraudulent activities from 1951 to 1970, and it's all on the FBI Vault. So I find this story very interesting because you have two views. UFO enthusiasts say, "Oh no, this was a real UFO crash." The other Roswell, the Aztec UFO incident, where when you read these FBI files, it sounds like it was two con men just conning people in the 1950s who didn't know any better. Will we ever know what really happened? I don't know. Maybe there was an alien crash and the government covered up extremely well with this con man story. Or maybe it was just two con men that were conning people. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. And I hope you found it interesting. Like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if I should make more videos like this. And stay safe out there, everybody.